here getting close to Homa again. So we may see a few more straggling kind of storms out behind this line of rain. But this is really where some of the highest winds, I think, are, especially when you see that bowing out, kind of like a bow and arrow. That usually indicates some strong winds kind of driving this section and creating that shape. So there is some heavy rain. It's so nice, though, that it is just now getting pretty far to the east of some of those more populated parts of St. Bernard Parish, now almost out into the Mississippi Sound. Still some heavy rain over Bay St. Louis, though. Still a lot of rain south of the city of New Orleans, but actually the metro area itself from the West Bank north into the city and including those parts of Jefferson Parish are now much quieter. Again, a lot of rain and lightning, though, just to the south, really just south of Balchase, including around Carlisle and right along that edge of Plaquemines Parish and into St. Bernard. And then you can look over toward Galliano. We've had some heavier rain around there, too. And again, this is something that, we're seeing kind of starting to surge up again. So we'll see whether this is able to continue and sustain itself. This is roughly on a track again toward New Orleans and toward Jefferson Parish. So we'll see. But right now it's only just barely getting to about Cocodrie. And that could be maybe another bit of rain, and it would certainly increase your rain totals. But those really, really heavy downpours that we saw earlier that dumped, radar indicated up to 10 inches of rain right over Lake Pontchartrain. Those are now mostly to the east. If you're curious about what's going on north of the lake, we still officially have the bright green boxes. I'll show you the warnings in a second, still in effect, but we do thankfully see some lighter rain there. Even at Picayune now, where some of the most heavy action was ongoing, of course, around Slidell, where unfortunately we had those two looked like rotating probably or possibly, tornadoes touch down, and then also off to the northeast into Mississippi, farther into Mississippi to the northeast, still some decent rain there. Okay, as for watches and warnings, yes, the heaviest rain is shifting east. Yes, we have a little bit more to go with the rain, especially if you're in our eastern areas. And again, we'll see if those cells to the south over the Gulf are able to ride up for maybe a final shower storm for a few areas. But this is our tornado watch area, and note that it has been trimmed a little bit. It includes all of our South Shore spots and part of the North Shore and into Mississippi. And this still officially goes until 4 p.m. These are all the active warnings. And again, a watch is not as serious as a warning. A warning is kind of that level up saying it's happening or just about to happen. So these are still in effect, and all of these are for the flooded streets. And just the heads up, please don't drive in these areas if you can. I know we're getting to the point where some of you may have had some drier spells, maybe some really light rain compared to what we had earlier, and may want to get out and about. If you can, though, this still isn't a great situation to get into, since there are some streets flooded, many reports coming in, and so you just don't want to get into those spots where it's a little lower lying and then you're encountering the water over the roads, which is really dangerous, of course, to drive into. So flash flood warning still until 4 p.m. For St. Tammany until 2:15, so not much more farther to the west. And then the big, of course, flash flood emergency warning, that one will go until 3:45. And then you can see as we zoom out, now there are a bunch more flash flood warnings off to our east as some of these heavy storms just continue nudging to the east as this system makes its way over toward, into Mississippi, Alabama, and along the Florida coast. And here is the bigger picture. We have a tornado warning here just barely on the state line or just over the state line into Florida. Big severe thunderstorm warning box in this area too. All these green boxes, the flash flood warning. So just a lot of rain out there, and also, that potent kind of system. Also, we have, you can see farther back, the swirl of the upper low. So we will see all of this continuing to move through our area. But really the next couple of hours, that will be about all that we're going to see. As for wind, we have a wind advisory in place for the next 5 or so hours, but it's not extremely windy for these spots. Balchase saying a near 30-mile-per-hour gust, but thankfully it's a little lower, especially compared to some of those thunderstorm wind gusts. And look at these temperatures. We're in the 60s, so it's actually a cool feel if you step outside, plus the rain, plus a little bit of that breeze. So a little bit of a different kind of feel. Actually, this forecast is a model. It has the rain chances about right, but the temperature is completely wrong. It has us almost near 80 in the next few hours, and we're certainly not there as we're sitting in the 60s. So Precision Cast, I wanted to show you really quick. It's not really doing a great job, but the general idea, and I showed you a different high resolution model a few minutes ago, is that everything's kind of moving out in the next couple of hours. Maybe another shower overnight, but we don't have much of a rain chance really at all. And this takes us to tomorrow morning. We've got some clouds, and then moving through the day on your Thursday for French Quarter Fest, looking pretty good. So this model has clouds actually already out of here by 10 a.m. So we will be clearing, and we will be looking for probably windy conditions tomorrow as well. Just to look really quickly at our forecast for the next few days, as we start to shift our focus from the really strong storms that we had earlier, now into kind of the winding down phase, it looks like, with the severe threat lower, although we're not completely finished necessarily just yet, but we don't have any active tornado or severe warnings at this point, aside from the flash flood warnings. And then you can see tomorrow still windy, high temperature 75, almost perfect. And then getting into Friday and the weekend still looks really good. So wow, French Quarter Fest, Strawberry Fest, other things happening this weekend. You're really lucked out heading into those days after we finished with the storms for today. So at least we're getting to the point where we can almost enjoy the pretty weather that will be moving in, but still some active spots as far as the rain goes. And just to show you a couple more of these, still pretty windy, especially out over the open waters where we still have storms. So we still have a wind advisory in place officially until this evening. And then with these southeast winds, you may have seen some minor coastal flooding. So we still have that coastal flood advisory in addition to all of those active spots. So one more peek at radar, and we'll see how things are shaping up just in the past couple of minutes. Or maybe you're just tuning in and thinking maybe we can start getting outside again. Not really a great idea, but we are seeing some drying, especially for some of these most western areas. Still showers and storms off to the south and southeast of New Orleans. A lot of action, especially with this cell that I was showing you, or this portion of storms right along the coast of Mississippi, and really more so out in the waters. And then look at this, still got to keep our eye on this. We'll see if this is able to surge all the way inland or whether it'll just kind of hug some of our coastal areas more. But we'll keep our eye on this and keep you updated. But for now, the heavier rain, thankfully moving out of some of those areas like New Orleans and really even Slidell. Still some moderate rain coming down there, but not as heavy anymore. And on the other side of the parish, it's getting a good bit lighter as well. For those rain totals, just to touch on that really quickly, I was showing you earlier that our radar estimated rain amounts were so high, and we'll just take a look at that again and see if that has changed. And we'll maybe dot in some of the actual numbers that our radar has estimated. This is normally takes a little while to load because it's taking in a lot of information, but let's just kind of query here. So for New Orleans, radar's estimating close to 7 inches, and I did see that at some of the City of New Orleans sites. I saw about 7 inches around the City Hall part of downtown, more like about 3 or 4 for some other parts of downtown closer to the French Quarter or Treme. Looking north around Covington, a little pocket there that radar wants to say 9 inches, almost 7 inches for parts of St. Tammany. Slidell, it wants to say about 6. Our actual gauge there is showing more like 3 or 4, and then over to the west up to about 8.5. And if you're somewhere farther away, you know, the greens are showing again about 1 or so. That part of Mississippi about 4 or 5, and then the yellows are more like maybe 3 to 4 or so. And some of those actual rain totals, because it's nice to compare what radar is guessing and then see what actual observation sites are saying. Oh, look at this. At Kenner, it's now jumped to 6.2 inches, and the lakefront 6.5 inches. So those are both National Weather Service sites that have now logged over 6 inches of rain today. Downtown, again, I'll update that in a second. Belle Chase close to 2. Like I was saying, the Slidell site at the airport there, 3 to 4 or so inches. And thankfully, some other locations did not get quite as much rain and not as much of a flooding concern. But certainly some of these New Orleans streets, Jefferson Parish, around some parts of Slidell, maybe still some water in those streets. And thank you for those of you who have gotten out safely and shown us some of your videos and pictures. It's always really good for us here in the studio, especially when we're tracking radar and things, to see what you're actually seeing out there. One more look at the big picture, and then we'll see where we're going after that. Right now, it looks like we still have most of the heaviest rain just sweeping along into the Florida Panhandle. Still watching what we have going on in our eastern fringes and along the coast. And then we're not expecting a lot more rain tonight or tomorrow. Will be mostly dry, but interesting to see still that swirl associated with the system over the Dallas area, and actually a flash flood warning around there too. All right, back to you guys.
All right, so that flooding threat